Welcome to the only daily podcast focusing on compliance news of the day. Each morning, start your day with a cup of coffee and Tom Fox, the voice of compliance, to hear about 4 of the top compliance, corruption, or leadership stories you will need to start your day. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network.
First, a word from this month's sponsor, Ethico.
If you're a compliance officer, middle managers are crucial in getting your programs from you to your frontline employees. But how do we activate those managers and get them on our side? Ethico's new Middle Manager Toolkit equips you with the skills needed to empower your managers, to promote a culture where ethical behavior thrives and employees feel empowered to speak up. Learn how to turn frontline managers into ethical leaders with our new white paper, Empowering Middle Managers as Ethics Champions. And did I mention you can get the whole toolkit for free? Head to ethico.com to download the full toolkit today.
Also, if you are looking for something new and different for the upcoming Compliance Week celebration in November, check out The Compliance Kids. It's my 3-book children's series on compliance and compliance professionals for children. But they make great gifts and great training tools for your employees. You can check it out on Amazon.com. We've linked to it in the show notes. The Daily Compliance News for November 13, 2024, the China Problem Edition. And we begin with Bloomberg, as the CEO of AstraZeneca says several companies have China problems. He doesn't name the other pharmaceutical companies implicated, and he says that AstraZeneca remains committed to its business in China. But lots of problems for companies trying to do business in China. If you're not one of them, get ready. They're coming after you. Next up from Reuters, once again showing why lawyers get such bad names, is a California court has had to actually rule that parents who send their children to public schools by doing so do not agree to private arbitration. A technology company who had a data breach which allowed harvesting and monetizing data of millions of grade school children in violation of wiretap and state privacy laws has been sued, and they tried to take it to arbitration because they said that by parents sending their kids to public schools, they'd agreed to that. So once again, compliance certainly takes a very black eye to the lawyers. Next up from the Financial Times, how to deal with in-work sickness. The high levels of post-pandemic absenteeism are causing trouble for employers. You almost suspect them to blame the employees themselves, but or perhaps even Gen Z or the millennials, because German executives warn that high absenteeism is compounding the country's competitive problems. Tesla has resorted to home snap checks to check up on absent employees. Gee, I wonder how that would go over in the United States. And our final story is the what's going to happen to the countries formerly known as NAFTA friends. Well, Mexico signals that it would hit back against U.S. tariffs if the U.S. throws up tariffs on Mexican manufactured goods. Now remember, those goods are manufactured in Mexico because the U.S. sent its companies to Mexico. They call the maquiladora plants just across the border to manufacture cheaper and to raise the income of Mexican citizens who worked in these plants. And now Trump wants to throw huge tariffs on them. Well, that's going to go over like a lead balloon for U.S. companies. Did you think through that, President Trump? No, because that would have, of course, required you to think. Well, great news from the Daily Compliance News. As I mentioned at the start of this podcast, the sponsor for the entire Compliance Podcast Network is Ethico. Well, Ethico has a great new offering this month for you, a toolkit for middle managers. This is something that you, as the compliance professional, can use to move your compliance program forward by giving middle managers the skills necessary to answer a call for speak up or when someone comes in their office and raises a concern. I can't think of a tool that will be more valuable for you in the current era of enforcement. The Daily Compliance News is a production of the Compliance Podcast Network and a proud member of C-Suite Radio. Thanks so much for listening. I hope you'll join me again tomorrow.